I hear a lot of doomsaying about social progress lately. Well, my whole life, but especially lately from certain people. And I'm not even necessarily talking about conservatives. I hear it from liberals or independents, whatever that means. Or moderates. I don't know. Anyways, a lot of people say, oh, history repeats. And it does. But then they use that kind of phrase and phrases like we have the same problems as we had, whatever, 50, 100, 200, 500 years ago, to try to make people think that social progress is a useless exercise, that striving towards social justice is a useless exercise, that it's a self defeating philosophy, first of all, to think that why are you a liberal and you think that striving for social justice is something that doesn't work. Like that's a new level of cognitive dissonance. But um, I think that's completely false. I mean, yes, we have the same problems. We have the same patterns in society, and we always have, and probably will for the foreseeable future. But my point is that we have learned better and better ways to deal with them. Not steadily, not step by step, not as a smooth level of progress. But if you actually look at I'm sorry for using a Eurocentric example, but it is the history that I studied the most, so it's what I'm most familiar with. But if you look at European history and into like the Dark Ages, the Middle Ages, whatever, horrific time period. Most people who haven't studied that time period do not realize how horrific life was for an average serf or peasant or whatever. You had nothing, you were nothing, you were owned by the aristocracy, sorry. And if you managed to scrape out enough food and keep it for yourself after the nobles took their cut to keep your family alive to the next winter, that was pretty much the cause for celebration in your life. That was the high point. And you lived a short, brutal life and you died an ugly death. We get a little further on in history. I mean, things aren't much better, but we're starting to get better ideas. We get the Enlightenment, the Renaissance, and so forth. And then we start getting these ideas of freedom cropping back up with, democracy, religious freedom, things like that. We get America, we get the French Revolution. Was it perfect? No. Was it still a horrible and oppressive system? Yes. But it was built on better ideals. And I think that's what we always do. If you see our history, instead of as a steady slope towards progress or a circle where nothing ever changes, see it more as a striving. We keep striving for the higher ideals. And that striving in itself produces measurable results. The people, for instance, now I am well aware that America has been an oppressive regime for so many people. But I also would offer that it has provided a higher level of freedom and a higher standard of living than many other countries and many other times throughout the world for many of its people. It's not good, but it's better. I'm not saying American exceptionalism here, okay? I'm not even saying that. I'm just using America as the example I'm most familiar with. I personally feel that there are other countries currently who do democracy and freedom much better than we do, and that was even before Trump took over, okay? But I'm just saying, this is what society is. It's the same, I've said this before, it's sort of the same process as biological evolution. We try one thing, maybe it doesn't work, maybe it kind of works, and we think and we say, okay, we're going to try this other offshoot, we're going to try this other offshoot. It's a process of trial and error, and sometimes the things we do work and sometimes they really don't. But I do think we are slowly trying to reach something better. And this is what I believe, that we try, we believe, we strive towards higher ideals, and that is the best of humanity. And even though we may frequently fail and fall short, and sometimes we go backwards, It is that striving that produces results, measurable, tangible results for people. When you, like, I've had people come into my comments and say, our social systems don't work. We spent millions of feeding hungry children, and there are still hungry children. And I'm like, so it doesn't matter. Social systems don't work. I'm like, it matters to those children, though. It matters to the ones you fed. Don't tell me that the money we spent feeding children doesn't matter and doesn't work if you changed those children's lives. If you changed one child's life, don't tell me it didn't matter. And that's really the crux of it. We strive, we try, we do our best, and we keep striving. And that's the best of humanity. And that's how we become our best.